Hi, Elliot. How you doing? We're going to be talking about reality and why you ignore it and how to create what you want by ignoring it. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that controversial? Well, I'm just going to lay it out clearly. Hi, Cliff. I'm going to lay it out clearly, okay? The reason why it's important to ignore reality is because think about it. Every moment is passing us, right? Every single moment is passing. Time is passing. Electrons are passing. Light is passing. Why would we hold on and pay attention even to it if it's passing? Now, we should be aware of it, like in our periphery, right? We should have peripheral understanding of it, but like a river, it's passing us. So our attention, if it's on the river, right, it's on the whole river. It's not holding on to a moment in the river passing us. Right? Could you imagine if you stopped a river and you tried to hold on to that moment? That's what happens when we hold on to anything that happened a second ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. We're holding a moment, and that moment is stuck. And yet it was moving. It's like a river, like I said. So, yes, you want to be aware of it. Well, just like life comes and goes, the body is experiencing life. And so all the emotions are coming and going. So that's a river. So why would we hold on to something that's moving, especially when we don't like it? It's a river. And so in order to create your reality, or you don't really create any reality, once again, you don't do anything. You just place your awareness on things, and you either judge life and then hold on to it. And you have this distorted idea that you're creating something or controlling something. It's just a distortion. Or you put your awareness on what you want while accepting that everything else is moving. So the metaphor for the river is, if I put my awareness on what I want upstream, as if that is solid, that is permanent, that is continuous, right? And I just stay with that, at the same time allowing life to come and go, emotions to come and go, experiences to come and go, everything to come and go, which is impermanent, right? Then what happens is, not only am I always in a positive state as my body processes the moving experience of life, but what happens is I'm always getting closer. But here's the rub. When the thing I want finally comes to me, if I hold on to that, that's physical, that's moving too. So we can't really hold on to not only the things we don't like, but that's kind of ridiculous, but the things we do like are moving. And so that's where we get in trouble. Once we hold on to moving things in an attempt to keep them from moving in an impermanent world that's always moving, we get into trouble. And so once you start to realize that I don't have to pay attention to any of it, doesn't mean I don't feel it, doesn't mean I don't experience it, but I'm experiencing it as long as it's here with the open kind of soft focus while being aware of where I'm headed. Now, that doesn't have to be this pit bull-like determination to hold on to something. But if you put your awareness on where you're headed, and what you would like while experiencing everything that is, that symbiotic flow creates movement and energy and manifesting. See, in NLP, what we teach is that if you want to create anything, the principles of success are to know your outcome, so know where you're headed. And that would make sense, right? I mean, I wouldn't build a desk unless I knew what the desk looked like before I started, right? We have to be flexible, so we keep trying different things. If you try glue and it doesn't work, then you try nails to build that table. You try that wood, it's too hard, you try a softer wood. So you keep moving around and keep trying things until that outcome becomes physical. We have to maintain a positive state of excellence, a physiology and psychology of excellence. What that means is, as soon as you confuse an outcome with a state, right, then you're in trouble. So when you want something in the world, as long as you know what you want is a three-dimensional object and you're going to use feedback to create it, you're good. You're going to use feedback and being flexible to create it, you're good. But as soon as you confuse some external experience with a state of being, which is just chemistry running through your system, and you rely on the external world to give you that chemistry, you're running up not only a poor strategy, but an impossible strategy. So you want to make sure you're holding what you want, and that's the point about keeping your awareness upstream, but having the feeling now. As you have the experience now, then things can come and go through that experience. Motions come and go through that feeling. Situations come and go through that feeling. And that's important. By holding the intention, you are being the intention. And so this is the problem. No one really creates anything or wants anything. The brain won't create anything that doesn't already exist. We will try to create things that don't exist inside, but even if we manipulate reality, we'll be terrified of losing it. If you internalize something as yours over and over again, then you want it physically, but it should only be wanted physically. If you want something more than just physically, then you know you're in trouble. It means you're creating a loop that is falling back on itself. And so I'm going to get to that in a minute, why that's important. Okay, so knowing your outcome, being flexible, a physiology and psychology of excellence, which just basically means confidence. It means that no matter what, I will finally get there, and I'll figure out what I need to learn to get there. Sensory acuity, in this case, it means we have to be aware of the fact that we are trying to get somewhere, but we have to be completely associated and connected to where we are now. That contrast tells the brain what to do to get closer to what we want, because it's aware of the data and even how you feel about the data now. Your feelings are telling the brain that this experience that I'm feeling fully does not match what I want. And that contrast creates energy and motion, emotion, in order for the brain to do all the processing it needs to do to try something else. And then taking action. Of course, we have to take action. But what I have found is taking action actually came later in NLP, and I think I know why. Is because why wouldn't you take action? You see, I don't really believe we are even taking action. I don't think we are taking action, and I don't think that we need to do anything but put our awareness on what we want, knowing our outcome, and being completely present to what is, and being flexible, allowing anything to happen. Because that's when the brain starts doing its job. I don't think a baby actually consciously thought take action. The baby puts its awareness on what it wants, and everything started moving because it was aware of where it was and what it wanted, and that contrast created a lot of energy. And then the body started trying things, just like artificial intelligence works, right? In fact, in my opinion, that's why we have artificial intelligence, because we're not using real intelligence, so we have to create artificial intelligence, meaning that we're not using the brain the way it was meant to be used. It's using us. The way the brain is meant to be used is we hold an outcome, we get excited about it, we're aware of the present moment, and that experience creates a lot of, let's just say, energy in the body or emotion. The body and brain's job is just to keep trying things. It keeps trying things until it gets closer. This is what I was teaching last weekend at HMI, the TOTE model, which is once you understand that this is what's happening, you realize why most of the problems occur in our lives when we would like any kind of change. Now, if you're just living in the moment, you don't need change and you're great, fine, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you'd like a change in your physical experience, something has to be in place, and it's called basically the TOTE model, which stands for basically test, operate, test, exit. All that really means is when we would like to achieve a certain outcome, a certain state of being, a certain result, whatever it is, a relationship, learn something, whatever it is we are attempting to do, there's where we are and there's where we want to be. Right? And so you have where we are and where we want to be. If you hold those two together, the brain starts trying things. And everything it tries, it will just want to know, is this closer? Is this further away? We did this when we learned to speak. We held the word water in our consciousness, in our mind, even in the mirror cells, saying water, and the body and the mouth started saying things like papa, pipi, kuku, kata, tawawa, wawa, tawa, wata, 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 and eventually it got the strategy. So it erased everything that was unimportant, like kaka, wuka. It erased it all, and it remembered the dopamine connected, and it remembered and learned that when I want to say water, now I have the strategy. It's water, water. If you're from Brooklyn, it's water, water, nice water. Hey, don't use some water, right? But once you got the end result, the brain exited and said, we now know how to do this. You do it a couple more times, and now it becomes unconscious competence. You now know how to do it unconsciously. So you want something, it happens. You want something, it happens because you have the strategy for it. So where people get in trouble is when they're not achieving their outcome. It's because of one of 3 or 4 reasons. When someone's not achieving their outcome, they either are not being flexible enough, so they have a vision, but they just think there's only one way to do it. They're not allowing their body to take over and try things. They're just, trying to hammer that nail over and over again the same exact way. They're just doing the same exact strategy that's not working. And they, eventually give up, or they never exit. They never get there. When working with, especially in Hollywood, working with actors, some actors are doing the same strategy for 30 years, same exact way of doing things, and not achieving that outcome. And like I said, either they're doing the same strategy over and over again because they think there's only one way to do it, or what's happening is they're not really holding an outcome that their brain is experiencing. So the brain will start bringing different strategies into place, start coming up with a different way of doing it until it matches the experience. People just seem to be doing the same thing over and over again. And I think what's really happening is that they're doing 2 things. They're not actually, essentially, they're doing one thing, which is they're not knowing their outcome. Therefore, there's no feedback to get closer to an outcome, because what they're really doing is holding an image of not their outcome, but an image. And here's where we're going to circle back here. They're holding an image and a state of being around a moment that was passing by them that they couldn't accept. So now we're holding what we can accept: rejection, something happening, not being good enough, whatever it is. A moment that was passing is judged in pattern, judged in emotion, and it's stopped. Now our intention is to change life, and hopefully if I work hard enough or do things, this pattern and this emotion will go away. But now the brain has no, here I am, here's where I want to be. It's just basically saying, here's who I am, here's where I am, and here's where I want to be, because you're holding a picture of where you don't want. So the brain's going, well, here's where I want to be. So then we just keep trying things over and over again because there's no feedback loop to get anywhere. There's a feedback loop that keeps feeding itself. Frustration. And then at one point, then we have to start coping. And that's when we start coping with the fact that we're not getting what we want. And that's where drugs come in, alcohol, whatever, sex. We just start saying, I need to do something else because I don't feel comfortable. Meanwhile, that discomfort was nothing more than feedback, that if their awareness was placed on what they wanted, they would have learned a different strategy and then got that strategy to move forward. And that's really important, because without realizing that's what we're doing, we get into trouble. Like we're talking about learning strategies, that sometimes when I teach a class, there are people who are very anxious all the time about information. They're trying to gather information. They're very, very anxious about it. And once you realize that the learning strategy is off on that, meaning they're not exiting. They're not saying, when I learn that subject matter, then I can exit. And then the next subject matter is a whole program, a whole tote: test, operate, test, exit. So then I learn that, and then I learn that. And they're chunking it down into achievable exits, if you will, or outcomes where you can feel good about it. You got the strategy, you can relax, and then you have to gather any more data around that. if the intention is too, let's just say too lofty, or if the too chunked up, if you will, then you're always gathering data. And gathering data takes a lot of work and a lot of feedback. And sometimes it can burn out because there's never a feeling that you've gotten anywhere. People do this in relationships sometimes. They look too far out. It's okay to have an external, an end result, but then you need short-term goals as well as medium-term goals, so you can feel like you're getting somewhere and you've accomplished something. So from there, you have a base to move on. Without that base, there's a sense of overwhelm. It's like trying to paint a whole house, a huge house, every room in your mind, and be painting let's say it took a year to paint this gigantic house. Every day, you'd be in this place of not really achieving your goal because you're constantly gathering data to get that end result achieved. So that's why when you chunk it down, you feel like, oh, I did that. Now I'm going to accomplish that. And it feels so much better to the neurology when we have something that's achievable and then we accomplish it. This is how video games are made, right? They have the first level that's achievable. If video games had all the levels were just one giant continuum from 0 to 10 levels, it would just be frustrating. You'd never feel like you've achieved anything, got a reward, and now you can exit. You know how to do that level. Let's move on to the next one. So they're experts at that, apparently. That's what it seems like when I play a video game, and they know how to put the perfect tote model in place, in a sense. This is why, once again, going back to the original subject, when you pay too much attention to what we call reality, right? It's kind of a little bit of a distortion, because when we say, well, I'm dealing with the reality, well, again, reality is always moving and emotion is always moving. So when you say you're dealing with reality, if it's consistent, then you're really dealing with an image in your head you're holding on to. So you're either holding on to an intention that's consistent, which is good because then you're using reality to get closer to the end result of that intention, or you're holding on to a moment that passed that you're still holding, projecting, and calling reality. In NLP, we call it internal representation of reality. So we're just holding a moment and we're calling it reality. We're calling it, that's how we deal with money. That's relationships. Those are men. Those are women. That's life. That's success. And we hold on to it, and then we get stuck. So I'm going to take a moment. Anyone have any questions? Hey, Stephanie. Hey, David. Hey, Sue. Hi, Amanda. Hey, Cliff. Saw Cliff earlier. Okay, any questions there so far? No, we're good? Angry. Someone's angry at me. I got an angry face. You're angry because I said ignore reality. So I'm going to say once again, every time we talk about reality, what we're really talking about is a pattern we're looking at that we call reality. That's nothing more than a brain remembering a pattern that was passing because we deem that pattern important. And the only thing we deem important is what we call reality. Meanwhile, it's a pattern. And there are three basic things that we're paying attention to. Excuse me. There's what we like and appreciate and love, and then we see it everywhere. The cars on the highway. We see it. Oh, there's my car. I like that car. I like that. And it becomes our experience. We ignore everything else that's passing because it's not important. There are the things that we can't stand or can't accept, like cars on a highway that we can't stand. I can't stand those cars that look like a shoe. Who would make that? So we're holding those patterns of things we can't accept, right? And we're holding patterns that we reach for that were more like a craving, like, oh, I wish I had that, like the car on the highway that you might want and wish for. And so those patterns, those three patterns that psychologists might call the hedonic tone, right, is or the Buddhists call aversion and attachments, right? I can't stand this and I crave that, right? Those two patterns are made from aversions that we judge, and then we think that something else will get rid of the discomfort that was caused by judging. So those are the two patterns we want to start to let come and go. And then what we like, we want to just notice and keep noticing it and keep noticing it and then keep noticing in our minds. And then our body, using the flow of life, will start looking for those patterns. And that's why sometimes you see these memes that say, you don't chase your goal, be it. You don't really create your body won't create what you want. It creates what you already are. It keeps recreating what you already are unconsciously. That doesn't mean if you're holding something you're not and you don't like and can't accept, you're not going to change the world. In fact, a lot of success is based on that model. It's just not creating it. It's forcing, it's manipulating, it's holding on to it, and it's trying to hold on to it while it's moving anyway. So think of it like a thermostat. When you're holding your awareness on what you want, you're like the thermostat. So you're set at 70 degrees. So let's say that's money or relationship. That's permanent. That's steady. That's what you love. That's what you feel. That's what you experience 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's what's permanent. You open your eyes and now you're in life, which is impermanent. People not matching that, not making that money, people insulting you, people abandoning you, people criticizing you or judging or controlling you, money coming, money going. When you stay here and you let everything come and go and feel it fully without any judgment or resistance or tension, what winds up happening is your brain starts using the data to create the physical version of what you're holding, like a thermostat. So the thermostat is steady, but that doesn't mean you always have the same temperature. Sometimes it gets hot and then it kicks in, and it gets cold and kicks in, and then it gets hot, and it keeps kicking in. Sometimes a window breaks and it's getting really, really cold, and the heat kicks in and it can't get up. But as long as it stays here, energy will be created to get life to match this, but it will never stay steady because life is doing this while your intention is doing that. As soon as you have a problem with this and your attention goes on to this and you start paying attention to this and the emotions in your body because of this, you start chasing this. As soon as you let everything come and go, your body knows what to do with this. The emotions know what to do with this. You stay here and life becomes a win-win-win because you're free of needing anything or clinging anything in the physical world that's going to move anyway. B, because, did I say A? A, because you're free. B, because you get to have what you want while you're not clinging. And C, you start to realize the creative process is in full swing because your body and brain is processing everything to create the physical versions of what you already are, which is really great too. And then D, it happens. It shows up in the world. But like a painter, they don't sign their name and go, holy cow, look at this. Holy cow. They've been living with it. They're feeling it. They're painting it. By the time they sign their names, it's been a reality. It's nice. It's nice to see a physical version of what they've been living with, feeling with, hanging out with. It's really cool, but there's no real crazy excitement around it. There's kind of like, wow, that was really fun. That was a lot of work. That was really rewarding to get there. Does that make sense? So let's do a meditation. Oh, we got questions here. Okay. Hey, Laura. Yeah, I really like that subject matter. How do you find out what you might be stuck on? I'll get to that in a second. I like that you said reality is a river and it's always moving. Sure to like the page. Oh, that's me, folks. So every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Okay. So I'm going to answer David's question as best as I can. Really like the subject matter and find out what you might be stuck on. Remember, there's no such thing as the reality except for the moment. So whenever you think you're stuck, it's a perception of energy blockage, right? Because everything's moving. So you're actually the one who's stopping reality. You're making it stuck. The way to do it is to I always like to start off with 3 very slow, long, deep breaths. So you can do that now. Take 3 very slow, long, deep breaths. So just make an S sound. Pretend you're blowing out through bubbles or dandelion, but just make sure it's slowing down and all the tension is draining out of your body. And just slowing it down, slowing it down, Hey, Santa. So we got Santa here today. And slowing it down, and slowing it down, and slowing it down. And breathing out, letting go all the tension. Just imagine all the tension like sand is draining out of your body, out of the heels of your feet. Now become aware that anything you're aware of that you think is reality is really you placing your awareness on your brain. And the only reason those images are important is because chances are they're images you said could not exist, and emotions that your body was experiencing around those images you said couldn't be. So just give yourself permission to let those images come and go. Whatever you think your reality is right now, whatever you think the issue is, whatever it is, just notice that it's a pattern of energy and your body has a response to patterns of energy, and that was supposed to come and go. So just give yourself a moment to breathe comfortably while being aware that they're thoughts and images, feelings and emotions, and they were supposed to come and go at one point, and they have a right to be, they have a right to come, they have a right to go, they have a right to be in the world. Your body has a right to process them without any tension or judgment or meanings. Now, as you're loosening around that, no matter how thick, no matter how intense it is, it's just your body processing stuff. As soon as you have a problem with it, you're stopping your body from learning from its environment. And then you try to cope rather than adapt and get better for it. So just keep breathing through it like you're breathing through a stretch. When you're breathing through a stretch, sometimes there's a plateau. That doesn't mean you stop focusing on where you're headed, where you're focused, and that you're moving down. It doesn't mean you force it either. Sometimes you have to stay at that plateau when you're stretching. So just breathe through the discomfort, but don't judge it, knowing you're heading somewhere and knowing that that's why you feel that, because you'd like to go somewhere and your body can only go somewhere else. I mean, go so far. And your emotions can go so far. So that's fine. Just keep breathing through it for a moment. Keep releasing tension and stop judging the body's experience of reality. See it as emotion coming and going. Now put your awareness on what you think that if it showed up in the world, you would feel what you think you would want to feel. It doesn't matter. You're not trying to create anything. You're not trying to manifest anything. What you're doing is becoming aware that your present situation has emotions, and you think another situation would get rid of those emotions. So give yourself the permission to soak in the appreciation of having that experience as if that's forever, and your present moment was okay to come and go. Just keep noticing moments coming and going. And when the brain says, what about that? You told me that can't be. Say, it can be, it might be, it could be, it comes and goes. My body will experience it. Those are emotions coming and going. But I'm going to gently put my awareness on what I want. So I'm going to ignore what's moving like a river. I'm aware of it, but I'm not paying attention to it. I'm only interested in loving and putting my heart and my attention and my appreciation on a pattern I love and have a right to in the now, while life comes and goes through me like a river. So just notice any feeling you're feeling is nothing more than your body and brain going, holy cow, they want this, but this is their present situation. We better learn. The emotions process, and in their wake, they leave insights, ideas. Someone calls out of nowhere. I don't know how that happens. That's more about the collective, but that happens. An idea comes from nowhere, an action, a behavior, sometimes just patience. Sometimes you don't do anything, it just works out. Just keep your awareness on what you want 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and enjoy it while being completely present in the world, but not focusing on it. Someone once said, be in the world, but not of it. I believe that's what he meant. So just keep breathing, because it's a river. Why would you hold on to a pattern that's moving? Why would you pay attention to it other than allowing it to be there? It's like following the river and stopping it. It's moving. Everything's moving. The emotions, the life. But as it moves, you get to have whatever you want now. And that having creates a dynamic where the body's processing the river and starts to draw that experience to you and you to it. Every day, You keep letting go of everything that is not what you want. You keep processing everything that's not what you want. You keep accepting everything flowing through you that's not what you want. You accept that everything could happen, something might happen, some things that used to happen could happen, something that might happen, and you let that all come and go. And as you let it all come and go, you continue to give yourself the permission to feel adored, feel loved, feel abundant, feel free, feel special, feel purposeful, feel applauded all the time while processing that. So your body and brain knows where you are, so it can use those feedback loops and strategies to find out how to get to where you are. That's why I don't really take conscious action. I take tons of action, but I never think, what action do I need to take? You want to desensitize yourself to any action, but I always put my awareness on what I want, and my body starts to find ways as I get out of its way. It uses its own feedback, its own flexibility to try this and try that. That just like artificial intelligence works. You give it parameters, and it starts throwing stuff out until it starts to feel a pattern, until it gets the strategy to get there. It then happens in a second, and faster, and then finds a better way to get there. And all those extraneous patterns get deleted. Any strategy that's not important, is not efficient, gets deleted until you can do things in a second. That's what we're supposed to be doing, not machines. Silly pants. Anyway, all right. I hope that helped today. Any other questions before I go? Ula! Yula! My golden retriever, how are you? Is that April? I can't see. I'm blind here. April. Hi, April. Any questions to that? I know some of you came in late, but I would highly recommend watching this again, because this is the difference that makes the difference. Understanding that tote model of test, operate, test, exit. That whenever you are wanting something, there's a strategy to get there. You can either keep being flexible until you get there and then you learn the strategy, or you can model someone and say, how do you get from here to here? What do you do? Here's one last, I'll leave you this with this example. One of the biggest problems of the human condition, and just my opinion, all this is just my opinion, it doesn't really mean anything, but one of the biggest problems is the strategy to release an emotion, as an example. And people keep doing the same thing. They suppress an emotion or they react to it. And then they react to it and say, I'm expressing it. I know people crying for 8 years. If expressing an emotion got rid of it, they would be pretty happy, right? If suppressing it worked, then we wouldn't have a shadow self, right? We wouldn't have some part of us taking over and then suddenly doing something and we know what happened with. Right? So the strategy for releasing an emotion, no one's doing. I mean, not no one, but most of us are not doing. The strategy that works best for releasing emotion is watching it, accepting it, and reframing it as information that the body's processing the world, and it releases. I remember using that strategy with someone once. They were holding on to an emotion, and they were just we're trying to let it go. We're welcoming it. We're tapping, letting it go. Keep relaxing, letting it go, accept it, letting it go. And one day I just said, I changed the strategy because I wasn't getting the exit. Then I said, what if you had to be with this emotion for the rest of eternity? It was your bunkmate, because this is the strategy I used on myself, and it worked, and then it came up again. What would happen if that emotion was there for eternity? It was your bunkmate. You might as well stop arguing with it, trying to get rid of it, and just let it be and do something else while it's there rather than try to get rid of it. That moment changed everything. A simple shift in your strategy can change everything. But some of us are so convinced because of modeling, because of lack of information, because of lack of holding our outcome and not believing it's even possible, or holding on to past memory and trying to fix it. But when you know your outcome and you're willing to be it, hold it, and have the state of it now, while trying and being flexible, you will achieve that outcome as long as you want to feel everything, process it. I mean, we went to the moon. Hey, Laura, you're welcome. Again, listen to this again, because I think as you listen to it, I mean, if it's helpful, obviously don't listen to it if it doesn't make any sense. But this is the difference that makes the difference in the law of attraction or intention or success. And you'll find that somewhere in the middle is this. The law of attraction, people just visualize it. The go-getters just take action. When you look at it through this filter, you'll see why it works with the law of attraction people, and it works with successful people. You go too far on the edges, it's not working. Fantasy alone, without processing the moment, stays fantasy. Taking too much action and being aggressive and assertive without a vision and knowing where you're headed just never exits. It's always force. It's always trying to gather some data. It doesn't even know what it's gathering. It's just trying to change things because we don't like how we feel and we're trying to fix reality. But in the middle there, when you realize you can have what you want and process what is, then you'll realize that you go back to the success of a child, and no one is more successful than a child. Because walking and talking, probably the two hardest things you've ever done in your life. And we did that without action plans, without anything other than holding an intention, having feedback until the body learned the strategy because we got out of the way. I hope that helps. I'll see you. Make sure you like, I guess. What do we do? That's right. We do this for marketing, I guess, right? Make sure you like it. Make sure you subscribe to the website for upcoming events. I'll be doing NLP at HMI. I believe it starts in September. I will have it on my website. I'm doing a law of attraction June 22nd at HMI. And I'm doing GPSmyFuture, my workshop, not for HMI students, just for my clients. Not just my personal clients, but people outside that are not students of HMI. I'm doing, just look at the website, tabtechnique.com, and GPSmyFuture.com will get you there. Hope you're well, and hope that helps. Try it. You'll like it. See you. Bye. What's that? There's a question. We have one more question. What's the question? Oh, there you are. Who's this? I answered that. Oh, do you think more men hold emotion than women? I think men suppress it more, sure. I think women have a tendency to react to it more, and men have a tendency to suppress it more. Either is not processing an emotion. Hope that helps. Thanks for your help. You're welcome. The full NLP at HMI. What's that? The full yeah, I'm doing NLP. It's 5 weekends. Right now I'm in I just did the 3rd weekend of the 5th of the 5 classes, 5 weekends. It's 1 weekend a month. I start September. I think it's September. Just check HMI website or check my website, and you'll see